guys, welcome to Priceless B-Movies. I'm your host, Colin Price, and many years ago, back when I was still running this page at my former address, I did a review for House on Haunted Hill. Not the House on Haunted Hill with Vincent Price from the 50s, but rather the remake from 1999. And in that review, I singled that movie out as being personally my favorite horror movie remake of all time. I know that a lot of people don't agree with that, but, subjective opinion. Having recently renewed this page, though, I'm looking back and I realize that was the only Dark Castle movie I ever reviewed. Seems kind of a shame since a lot of those were kind of mainstays in horror during the late 90s and early 2000s. So I kind of want to take a look at a couple of these for my next reviews. So let's start off by taking a look at this one from 2001, this film of ghosts and madness and even more reasons why you shouldn't trust F. Murray Abraham.
I gotta call DC.
Good for you.
Watch it, Jack! He killed Mozart!
13 Ghosts. 13 Ghosts stars Tony Shalhoub from Monk fame as a father who's just recently lost his wife, so now he's left to deal with his teenage daughter and his young son. And things aren't going well. He is not keeping it together. And then one day a lawyer shows up at their door and says, "Hey, your uncle that you probably never told your kids about and who is really shady and mysterious, but it's okay, we can completely trust everything he says. He's left you this incredible house because he's dead now and this is your inheritance. So we should go, take a look at the house real late at night." As you do. Once at the house, they realize this thing is basically, if you're agoraphobic, this is your worst nightmare. There's no walls in this house. The whole thing seems to be made of steel and glass and kind of looks in a lot of ways kind of like if the Lament Configuration box from Hellraiser was a building. They run into Matthew Lillard's character, who claims at first to be an electrician, although, yeah, right, because you're not going to figure out more about that guy later. Also doesn't help that they show him in the first scenes. You already know he's not really up to any good. Once inside the house, levers are pulled, ropes are tugged on, switches are toggled, and bing, bang, boom, now they're locked in the house. And not only that, but they're in there with a number of spirits. Guess how many? I remember 13 Ghosts being a pretty big deal when it came out, arguably a bigger deal than House on Haunted Hill was. It seemed like all of my friends went to the theater to see 13 Ghosts. I was lucky enough to catch it in theaters, but I think it was one of the last showings. I know I was kind of late to the party on that one. And I was expecting it to be really scary because I knew it was the same people who did House on Haunted Hill. And there's a couple of moments that are interesting. Overall, though, I feel like the way this movie's shot is more akin to a music video than a horror movie. There are a number of scenes where lights flash for no reason. There's all kinds of distorted sound effects. This movie must have taken a long time to mix the sound because there's so much ambient sound, so many ghostly wails and moans and gasps, so many screams that are kind of worked intermittently throughout the soundtrack of the film. It's really weird, and after a while, I'm not going to lie, it's kind of off-putting. I felt like there were scenes where I legitimately couldn't even understand dialogue the characters were saying. It was almost like Christopher Nolan before Christopher Nolan. Where it's the ambient sound and the spooky sound effects completely overshadow the dialogue, so I wasn't actually sure what some people were saying to each other from scene to scene. That's ultimately my biggest criticism of the movie, though. It's just something that sticks with me every time I watch it. The acting is fine here, although I don't really think anyone really has that much to work with outside of their initial character setups. I don't think there are many character arcs in this story. You could argue that Matthew Lillard has one, but honestly, I never really understood what his character arc is supposed to be because he'll constantly go back and forth from being this, this sleazy guy who wants the money that he's owed for doing nefarious crap with F. Murray Abraham's character. And then he'll switch over to, but I have to protect this family from these ghosts now. And then he keeps going back and forth between those two goals. And I don't know. I never really bought it where his character ends up. I never really thought, okay, yeah, that's a natural conclusion to that. Because I don't think the movie ever really made up its mind if he was supposed to be a jerk or a good guy. Shannon Elizabeth and rapper Rod Digga show up, and they have these okay supporting roles, One's there to basically be eye candy, and the other one's there to be comic relief. They don't have characters really outside of that. I feel like I'm dunking on this movie a lot, so let me talk about the one thing I did love about this film, and that's the ghosts themselves. In terms of makeup, special effects, and just the creativity of the lore behind the spirits, these are some really interesting characters I will frequently see on Facebook. Someone will post we should have a Netflix series where each episode is just the story of each ghost in the 13 Ghosts, which I always thought was like, that's kind of a cool idea, except all you have to do is open up the DVD or just look up online, just Google 13 Ghosts Origins, because the backstories of these characters are pretty well known now. You just have to literally Google search it. Standouts include the Jackal, the Angry Princess, and the Torn Prince. I thought these were all really interesting characters. Having said that, though, I don't feel like every ghost really got a moment to shine. I think a lot of time was spent on a specific couple of them, and then the rest are just kind of like there to show up, and kind of jump scare you every so often. So I don't think that they allowed enough time to really get into these characters as much as they should have. That being said, though, as I was saying, they all look fantastic. This is a really unique and cool group of spirits. To be completely honest, guys, I know that when it comes to Dark Castle films, this is one of the most popular ones, if not the most popular one. It's just not one that I've ever really thought was that great. I think that visually, it's cool, but like I said, it's more like a music video than a horror movie. It's a lot of quick flashes. It's a lot of rapid editing. A lot of the time, I feel like if they had just slowed it down a bit, some of this would have been a lot more effective. Also, this is definitely one of those movies where it's kind of divisive, right? Like, you got one group of people who think, oh, it's okay, there's some lapses in logic, but this is a fun movie, this is an entertaining movie, we'll overlook it. A lot of the time when I do my reviews, that's the side that I fall on. But then there's the other side with this movie that's like, this is a really stupid movie. There's a lot of stupid things that people do in this movie. I almost can't feel sorry for anyone who dies in this, because they kind of have it coming. Just look at what they're doing. Now, if you're wondering which side of that I fall on in this movie, let me just say that this is a movie where the main character is a math professor and he needs to count up to 13 on his fingers. No, really, math professor needs to count to 13 using his fingers. This is by no means one of the worst movies of all time or anything, but I do honestly think you could put this movie in, turn the subtitles on, and mute it, and basically get the same experience out of it that you would have gotten otherwise. 13 Ghosts gets 2 stars. There were some good ideas here and some really nifty effects work with the ghosts, but this could have been so much more than it is. That was my review of 13 Ghosts. Thanks for watching. I got a lot more coming, and stay tuned for more Priceless B movies.